So I'm just going to pause for like a minute just to see if the other two are able to get on, and then we'll start if that's okay with everyone.
Joe, you always have the best backgrounds.
Thank you.
Where is that, Joe?
That is up our coast towards Yachats.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Is that any better? Make you feel like you want to go fishing?
That looks like a big,
I brought our lines in really quick.
wow. That is
We had
huge.
we had one underneath the boat when I took that picture.
Wow, it's pretty amazing.
They're huge.
Well, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, man, let's see. I think we maybe just one more coming in. I think we'll go ahead and start and begin. Just welcome everyone. It is 6:02, calling the meeting to order. If Jessica would please perform roll call.
Absolutely. Joe Piscineri,
Here, thank you.
Brittany de Alicante.
Here, can y'all hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Thanks.
Barry Lind.
Here.
Michael Bean did previously convey he could not attend. Jonathan Hayes. Okay. Carla Berg also conveyed she wouldn't be able to attend. Terry Dillon.
Here.
Adam Jenkins.
Here.
Jen McCauley.
Here.
And Eric Adams.
Here.
Roll call complete. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone being here tonight that can be. If you've had a chance to look at the minutes, any changes to the minutes, any corrections? Hearing none, would someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Eric. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I'm not sure. Was that Adam?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. First and second, to all in favor, how about just, yeah, raise of your hand, and as Brittany wants to just say yay.
Yay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Minutes approved. Take a moment for business from the audience. I've just a little script as I read each time that I want to read. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded. The committee will listen to your comments, but will not respond to public comment until the committee response portion of the meeting agenda. Meeting minutes will be taken by staff and forwarded to the city council and city manager. Members of the public can always send written testimony to the committee or city council. As we begin our meeting tonight, I'd like to ask members of the audience to please keep yourself on mute until you're called to provide public testimony. Public testimony will allow speakers 2 minutes each for a total of 20 minutes. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak either of those times, please use the raised hand feature to make the request. You will be called on when it's your turn to speak. Please identify your name, Springfield board number, and subject you would like to speak about. For people calling in by phone only, you are on listen mode only and cannot be called upon. Having read that, do we have any business from the audience?
None at this time.
Okay, then probably we don't need any committee response. We will move on with business from Springfield Police Department. Chief.
All right, welcome everybody. Good to see you again. The first thing I want to do is introduce our new public information coordinator, Zach Gosa-Lewis. He's worked at U of O for a number of years, and like I mentioned to somebody earlier today, we don't want to say we stole anything because it's not really appropriate for law enforcement to steal things, but we definitely stole him from U of O, and we're pretty excited about that. So I just wanted to introduce him and let you know that he's going to be highly engaged in the months ahead with what we're doing here at the PD. He's going to be managing our social media, our webpage. He's going to be working very closely with Lily Wick, our community outreach coordinator, on some community events. And so I'll just give Zach just a brief moment to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Thanks everybody for having me. I know it's kind of a little bit of late notice, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to pop in first and foremost and say thank you. In addition to working here, I live here. I've lived in the Springfield area for 4 years. I'm really appreciative of y'all volunteering and taking your time on the committee. And now as an employee of the city and as someone who gets to support the good work that our police department is doing and the work that Chief Shearer has tasked me to do, I'm really appreciative of getting to see some of y'all at events already and getting to interface and work with you and support anything that you've got going on. I just wanted to put myself out there as a resource and as an asset that as we go through things and as we start to work on building our reputation back and getting things out in the community and hosting events and being out where we need to be, I'm going to look to y'all and I'm going to look to other community members to get ideas and to see what y'all think we can do. We're going to tackle things one day at a time and one project at a time, whether it's an email signature or whether it's a website. We're trying to get everything on brand and on page, and I just appreciate your hard work, and I appreciate the chief and the rest of the staff at SPD giving me this opportunity. So if you need anything, please let me know. I'll drop my information. That way it's there for record in the chat. That way if anybody needs to reach out, but probably cut my camera off and be here. But if anybody needs anything, just reach out, and thank you all so much.
Perfect.
Thanks, Zach. Relatively brief update this week. So on the 11th of May through the 17th is National Police Week. And on May 15th is Police Officers Memorial Day. So in 1962, President Kennedy established Police Week and established Police Officers Memorial Day to pay recognition to the officers that gave their lives in the service of their communities. This year, I think there are 472 officers that are going to be added to the wall back in DC during Police Week that lost their lives this year. So we will be recognizing that throughout the week, and I've authorized the officers to wear black mourning bands on their badges for the week to remember the fallen officers from 2021. This week was also National Corrections Officers Week, so we want to give a shout out and kudos to all the folks that work over in the Springfield Municipal Jail. They do an outstanding job, and they're kind of they fly under the radar. People don't see them typically unless you get booked into jail, and that's probably not most of us. So, but they're a key component in the public safety system that we have here in Springfield, and critically important to everything that we do. I think last time we said we were going to have a discussion about our community survey. So I don't know how many of you have had a chance to either read through the survey, or we had the researchers come, Jess, I can't remember, it was a week or 2 weeks ago, and put on a presentation for it that was live streamed on Facebook, and I think it's still on our webpage. So I don't know if anybody had a chance to watch or read through that, but I'd be willing to field any questions that you might have if you've done that. If you haven't, I can kind of take a few minutes and kind of talk through it, but if anybody's got any questions right now, why don't you go ahead and throw them at me. All right. So about halfway through last year, we decided we were going to do a community survey to kind of establish a baseline to what we can measure off of moving forward, and as well as it could be an opportunity for the pub to provide the public the ability to kind of prioritize how they want their public safety services delivered specific to SPD. And so we focused on several different topics, and some of those included people's willingness to cooperate with SPD, people's trust in SPD and had it increased or decreased over the last 12 months, our performance in community engagement, our performance in managing public safety overall, people's perceived treatment during police contacts. We actually asked folks, that had been arrested or had police contacts to weigh in on how that went. We asked how people get their information regarding public safety in Springfield. to try to establish what the best mechanism for us to connect with folks, whether it's Facebook, the newspaper, the evening news. So that's pretty valuable information. People's perception of safety in Springfield and the perception of criminal issues and traffic problems. They prioritize those. So we selected these researchers from Portland State University primarily because of the other surveys they had done related to police agencies, and not just that they do a good job collecting and analyzing the data, but they provide us recommendations for action based on their analysis, and they're really good at what they do. So we conducted the survey towards the end of 21 and early 22. There was a random sample of residents that was done, and after that was closed, we did an open sample where anybody could basically fill out the survey and provide information also. So that random sample was clearly more easily validated and I think more accurate. But the open sample did provide a lot of feedback in terms of comments from respondents that I think are all very valuable and kind of informing us how people are feeling about the PD. So I've got some slides I could share if you're interested in doing that. That's something, it's not something I really made for this presentation, but I've got it if you want to take a look at some of the stuff. Is that something you'd like to do?
I think that's a good idea. There was a request last time to take a little more time with it. So why don't we go ahead and see what you've got? Thank you.
Let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen here. You guys seeing that now? So I think the numbers that we see on this slide related to people's, are they willing to cooperate with SPD? I think those numbers are high. I think that's good. I think it shows that they actually trust us, that we're going to do the right thing. Their people are willing to work with us. They trust the fact that we're going to show up when we call or when they call us. And I think these numbers are very positive. Now, these numbers here, the trust they have in us, I have confidence in the SPD, they can be trusted. That's kind of strange because they're very willing to call us, in the 90 percentile range, but there's some room for improvement here, which I think is interesting and something that we can absolutely focus on. This portion of it was to kind of determine if people's trust in the PD had gone up or down in the last 12 months. And I think it's positive also, because in the random sample, 23% of the people felt the trust had gone up and about 60% felt the same. In the open sample, about 27% of the people felt their trust had gone up. So those are positive. But on the other hand, there's, 17 to 20% of the folks, their trust had gone down for some reason. So again, that shows there's areas for improvement there. These numbers are okay, but we definitely can do better here. So our ability to reduce crime, reduce crashes, being available when we need it. And I'm not going to make any excuses for this, but I think one of the explanations potentially is some of the staffing shortages that we're facing. And it's not just that we're facing them here in Springfield. I think agencies all around the region, and frankly around the country, are facing staffing shortages, which impact our ability to follow up on as many crimes as we want. They impact our ability to do a lot of proactive, like extra type of patrols and traffic safety missions and things like that, just because we're so short staffed. So I think these numbers we can absolutely improve with improved staffing. And I know we're making headway in our recruiting and hiring efforts. So hopefully that's something we can bring up in the years ahead. Are the level of people's perceived understanding of our level of community engagement. Again, we can do better here. And I think this is largely because we're coming out of 2 years of basically the entire world being shut down. No community events, no public events. And so people just have not been seeing us as much because we haven't been out there in that capacity as much and communicating with folks. So this is an area that I'm actually excited about, because now as these restrictions that we've been under for the last 2 years have essentially been lifted, I think it's going to provide us a lot of opportunity, especially rolling into summer, because I really feel like people are hungry for that face-to-face contact and to engage and build relationships. And so I think this is, while the numbers are not as high as I'd like, I think this is something that kind of is energizing for all of us, because it really provides us focus on what the community is going to want from us in the months ahead. And there's a lot of things planned for this summer as well. I mean, something we've got coming up in June, I think, is the police canine competition. And I've never attended one down here before, but I don't think we've had one for at least 2 years. And I'm told it draws people like in the thousands. It's a very popular event here in town. And so that's just one example of the kind of things I think they're going to be looking forward to throughout the summer. So these are the 4 categories of recommendations that we got from the survey. To continue to expand our efforts to address social disorder, utilize non-traditional methods when possible. People really liked the fact that we have cahoots as part of our response system here. People really seem to like the fact that we have the unarmed community service officers that take thousands of our calls each year, the low-level calls, take police reports and found property calls, and deal with traffic issues. So social disorder is a concern, but people definitely voiced that they want us to use some of these non-traditional methods to deal with some of these low-level things rather than just have them be all police calls. So the creative follow-up strategies piece, I mean, people want follow-up after they make a police report. And we didn't score really high in that area because a lot of times the officers will show up, take the police report. But if people never really hear what the resolution is, even on some low-level things, I mean, I think that's something that they expect, is to get that feedback. Now, I know there's some new products out there and some other agencies that are experimenting with some web-based apps and things like that that actually provide, automated text message follow-up or phone message follow-up or email follow-up after you file the police report. And some studies have shown in those cities that really makes an impact on people's perception about police because they feel like they're getting that feedback and regular updates on their cases. So that's something I think we can improve upon, and some of those new products that are focused on that are something we'll be taking a look at as well. Traffic safety is big on people's list, and right at the very top of the list, I think there was a dozen or so different categories of traffic safety issues. Right at the very top was people talking on the phones and texting while driving. That was the number one priority people had. They saw as a problem in town. So again, with staffing ramping up, we can run some directed traffic type of missions and some high visibility enforcement missions related to traffic safety. So that's something we can build on there. And expanding community engagement efforts. And that's something I talked about just a minute ago. I think as we roll into summer and the COVID restrictions are lifting, that's something that we're all very excited about and going to focus on in the months ahead. And I think we can improve on those numbers as well. So this is just like a really high level view of this report. I mean, this is a 50-page in-depth analysis that if you read it, there are a lot of public comments that they included in it and a lot of data. And so I just wanted to kind of give you a high level flyover what some of the stuff is in it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have just based on that.
Hi, Chief. I have a quick question. Can you hear me all right? Sorry, I have a limited service right now.
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you barely.
Great. I'll try to be loud. I mean, this is probably a predictable question, but I love that there was the Latino Voices section of the report. And I was wondering if there were plans, and maybe I just couldn't find it properly, but are there plans to translate the entirety of the report into Spanish? I know it's a long report.
No, that's a great point. I will look into that tomorrow and see what that would take to translate it. Yeah, it is a big document and there is a lot there, but I think that's a great idea. It really is. So let me look into that and get back to you.
Thank you so much, Chief.
I have a question as well. Is this something you guys plan on doing on every couple of years, or do you plan on doing a follow-up with this at a certain point?
Yeah, I think the standard is every 2 to 3 years you do this, and this is our baseline. It's not something you do every year, but I think every 2 to 3 years can provide you the kind of data to show what direction you're going. Any other questions? All right, that's what I got for your updates.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Chief. Appreciate that, and chance to look that over a little bit more. Let's go on to business from the committee. At our last meeting, we talked about just taking a glance at the Springfield Police Advisory Committee bylaws. You should have gotten that. Hopefully you've had a chance to look that over. as you looked that over, any thoughts or comments that anyone on the committee has from that? So then, if it's okay, as we move into the next part, we've been kind of talking about goal setting for a couple of months now and feels like a little bit of a hard time finding some traction. And we were missing a number of people last month. And so we're hesitant to do too much. You know, as I look at this overall purpose statement under the committee bylaws, I wonder if that does give us some clear direction on at least a good chunk of what our focus is to be. And I'm wondering, and this is just a suggestion that I really like some feedback and some thought on, but we're already in May. We're really talking about goals for the rest of this year, which is we're almost halfway there. I was just reading the comment. I wonder if our goal would to be maybe a little bit more general, and something along the lines of connecting with our purpose, which is, you know, giving some information and regarding, you know, input, I should say, regarding public safety and such, but also then the long range plan. And I think, Chief, you're in the process of working on the long range plan, correct?
So we have not begun work on a long range plan. I mean, we have a lot of things that we're building on right now. We've got, you know, one of the big projects that's coming up is we have that levy vote in the fall. We're diving into police accreditation, which is something we want to do, but it's also mandated by the state coming up. We're developing a comprehensive training plan, and we're going to dive into our department mission and value statement. So those are the priorities right now, more so than the long range plan. That's something we want to do, but just with the capacity issue we have right now, those things I just shared with you are higher on the priority list.
Okay. So I'm wondering, and again, I'm just speaking aloud, and I really want input, just to try to see if we can move the ball rolling on this. But I'm wondering more of a little general goal of something along the lines of the goal of support the long range plan as that comes in place, and we understand that there are other priorities that are before that. Maybe the goal of support for community outreach and support of the police department as well. Eric, go ahead.
Thanks, Barry. It probably occurred to me too late, but the chief just going through the community survey results, if there's a role for us in helping to respond to any aspects of what the survey is telling, you know, the department should be focusing on. Just thinking off the top of my head, if holding maybe public listening sessions for, you know, certain groups in particular to provide that, you know, kind of input and feedback to the department. I don't know, just brainstorming.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm wondering if our goal was as general as offering support for community outreach and the police department. This is just a general. From there, we can we could take on different tasks as long as it fits within our role as SPAC. Also, just to let you know that we did reach out to the city attorney, and they were not available to meet with us this month, but would meet with us next month. And there was some desire to have the city attorney meet with us to make sure a little bit more clarification on what we could do community outreach wise. So my thinking has been that we could continue to wrestle around with thoughts and ideas for goals, and we've finally set some, and it would be a month or two left in the year, and so trying to help us find some traction to move us forward on some potentially pretty high overranging goals that we could then work with and move forward.
I think
Thoughts,
that sounds
comments?
great, Barry. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments from the committee? You are a quiet group tonight. Thank you. So, okay, best way to move forward. Would it be to have a couple of people write some more general goals that we think we could work under and then present that back to the committee as a whole? I see one heading, nod heading. Yes, Chief.
You know, I'm just reflecting on what Eric said and what I see as one of the big needs that came to light in the survey is the increased community engagement. And while we've got ideas on how we want to do that throughout the summer, I mean, I think there's definitely value instead of just the police showing up somewhere and wanting people to come talk to us. If, you know, maybe members of the committee can either be included or potentially even, you know, kind of be that intermediary to some degree, where there's maybe a little bit enhanced level of trust with a community member talking to a community member versus a community member just coming straight to the police. So as we have these events throughout the summer, I think there's value in reaching out to the committee. And if there's people that are available potentially to be present at those and be representatives of the committee and, you know, communicate to some degree, whether it's alongside of us or independent of us, but at least so we're tracking at some of those same events. I think there could be value there. So we could definitely use help in that community engagement area, if that's something you'd be willing to do.
I love that idea, and I'm going to guess there would be some interest on our committee willing to do that. It feels like we're actually able to put some feet to and action to some of the things that we would feel like we're helping accomplish. Joe.
Thanks, Barry. I like the idea and I concur with what the chief is saying, but I think members of the committee would be, it would be great for them to work alongside or in support of, so that the police presence at these events is the focus and that it shows that there's support from the citizens behind them as opposed to independent. I think, plus of course, we'll need to wait to listen to the city attorney's office when she shows up to let us know about what kind of representation the committee members are permitted to have and at what level.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think every place the chief goes should have one of us shadow him. I'm sure you'd like that, wouldn't you, Chief? You've yet to ask me for a ride along, but it's okay. Go ahead.
So a couple of really practical suggestions, which I really like, and I just think it's possible to write a goal where we could be doing that, implementing those practical ideas as they come along and as they come up. And so again, my inclination is to push us towards writing a couple of higher vision goals, and gives us some flexibility to move within that. To give support not only to the community, but to the police department. Any suggestions on next steps? Yes, Eric.
I was just going to volunteer to serve on a subcommittee if anyone else would like to join me to write some draft goals.
Thank you, Eric. That is wonderful. Would anyone else like to do that?
I would like to help on that.
Okay, Eric and Terry. Perfect. Anyone else have a desire? I'm more than happy to let the two of you run with that if you're up for that, and coordinating with Jessica, if you would, please. Okay. So Eric and Terry will write up some goals and then present it for our next meeting, first Thursday of June, and for our approval. Good? Everybody good on that? Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate your willingness to do that. There was a subcommittee that Terry and I met with Jessica to go over policies that we continue to want to review policies and get updates and give any feedback. You have a copy of that. We just I didn't realize, to be honest with you, how many policies there were. There were more than I could have imagined. So to be honest with you, I was looking through, Terry was looking through, and we picked the ones that we thought would be good to hear about. We had asked the team if they had any input, the committee, I should say. And at that point, no one had any more suggestions. So here's what we thought would be good to hear more about, and for some specific reasons as well. And then they are plugged in during certain times of the year. We put them in on an every other month basis because we initially had moved back to going every other month. We recognized that we had a little bit extra work to do last month, so we put this meeting in. But you'll see it's on the schedule for every other month. So starting in August, we would begin some more policy reviews. Any questions or comments about that? And because it's on the screen, Joe.
Yeah, I just want to, I looked at that list and I think that's a pretty good list, actually. There's a lot there, but it's actually a good snapshot list is what I think would be very interesting.
Good, thank you, Joe. There were things that I was interested in, and I hope that others would be, and there were things Terry was interested in, and so I appreciate that. I'm not able
Yeah,
to
I just
see
wanted
everyone, so go ahead. Yes.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to thank you all. As somebody who was on that subcommittee last year, I appreciate how much work went into that, and I think you all came up with a really great list. I'm excited to hopefully review those with everyone.
Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate that. Any other comments or questions about the policy review? Very good. Any other business from the committee as a whole? Any updates or anything you want to share just in your area of Springfield? Any input you want to give to the, yes, Joe?
Yeah, I would just jumping in on the information share, which I always enjoyed in the past with this committee, where we did round robin and people were just kind of sharing what they're seeing in their neighborhoods to the chief, so they can make and his staff can make notations, so that way if there's a need or perceived need for extra patrols in certain neighborhoods and whatnot, this is a great opportunity for the PD to hear from the citizens, and we are the voice of the citizens when it comes to that as well. So, so I would like to, on that note, I wanted to go back where the chief has indicated there's talking about street safety programs and where the perceived needs are. I wanted to put my hand out to him in regards to that focused patrol and enforcement in regards to the log trucks coming in from the McKinsey on the from the fire, and that worked really well. It was really resonated. I'll tell you right now that was pretty much exploded in the local social media, but the amount of engine braking, jake braking that the trucks have been doing has been significantly reduced since then. The speed appears to be dropping. There's a speed feedback sign on the east and Main Street that appears to be having some effect, positive effect onto the speeds coming into town from the McKinsey. So a shout out to the PD for that. The Thurston area neighborhood really appreciates that a lot. And of course, there's a few that were really upset about it, but that's kind of goes with it. And the other part I was going to indicate in the Thurston Hills lately in the last couple of weeks, there's been some door-to-door salesman activity that has been crossing the line big time. People, some of the door-to-door salesmen, and there's pictures, et cetera, on their porches that are trying the doorknobs of the residences before they knock and ring. And a lot of folks trying to figure out, okay, why would they do that? They had one of them go behind in their backyard and knock on their back door. They had a couple of them had gone to their residences, were told they didn't want the service. It was a pest service. They didn't want the service, and the same person would come back to the same residence at 9 p.m. that night. So it's a lot of over the edge to me And I don't know as far as codification, but have introduced an idea in which we can look at the codes to see what can be written up to help prevent that, because there's a lot of people, a lot of single moms, et cetera, that were very fearful because of this activity. I sent an email through my council email to the manager of the business that is located up in Portland, and advised him that he should cease that kind of activity to not harass these residences. And I never got a email back. So it's been significant. So I'm going to try to get some codification to try to set some rules around that, working with the city attorney's office to see what we can do and how we can word it so people have something to fall back on should they experience it. And it's not just for any company, it's just that one this last couple of weeks, but any of them into the future that code would affect. So obviously it's not going to be targeting a specific business, but the style in which people are trying to sell things.
Joe. Adam.
I saw Chief had his hand raised first. I don't know if you wanted to speak. No. Counselor, thank you. There's actually, you mentioned a handful of things that I was going to bring up because I live out actually 72nd area of Thurston. So I live out East Springfield. And so the lumber trucks, log trucks I've noticed that myself amongst other people that live in my area too. The speed has been definitely better than in the past. And then I was also going to talk about the door-to-door people and some thefts. What's interesting to me is I have some friends that live up and that it's been happening in South 72nd. And what's kind of fascinating to me is in my little area in the northern end of 72nd, we don't get any of that. And it's probably related to the 200-yard circumference where there's like 10 officers between counties, state, and Springfield, Eugene that live in our area. Maybe scare people away, but I was going to bring up the fact that there seems to be some consistent issues up the area. I don't know how that is in other neighborhoods, but I do know in the South area, there's been quite a bit going on here in the last few months. Well, really the last 2 years, but it seems to be a little bit more late as of late.
Thank you. Any, Chief, yes. You're muted.
Just to speak to the traffic mission that you both mentioned, I think that was a really good lesson learned for us. Initially we just want to be responsive to the community concerns, and we went out and did basically an education campaign. It wasn't even initially to write tickets. It was just let people know, hey, here's what the law says, here's what the speeds are. I think that went on for about a week, just this education campaign. But the timing of it with what was going on in Canada with the trucker convoys and everything else, it kind of became a big deal, and it kind of turned against us. So I think that's the lesson learned for us, is just the need to really be transparent as to why we're doing it, and to rely and leverage the relationship that we have with groups like you all to help educate the neighborhoods and things, or what we're doing and why we're doing it, to kind of mitigate some of that false information that goes around about what was driving this. And so it was a good lesson learned for us. I'm glad it was successful, but there were some, it got pretty heated there on social media between a lot of folks, and took on some legs I don't think any of us expected.
Good. Anyone else that had information? Yes, Eric.
I just want to share appreciation with the chief of our coordination with the school resource officers recently. Been having some kind of specific issues related to students from a couple of the area schools in relation to activities happening in our parks, and our park rangers have really appreciated having their support in responding to those. So just wanted to pass along those kudos. In addition to that, we are seeing kind of a resurgence in seasonal break-ins, car break-ins at several of our trailhead facilities, and continuing to try to monitor that and identify suspect vehicles. Yeah, just become kind of a regular occurrence in spring going into summer for us recently, but just wanted to share that with the public and this committee for what that's worth.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else that just information from their neighborhood or just yes?
So Eric took one of mine, but our SROs are fantastic. And I just wanted to pass along our appreciation as well for your team's participation in the walk and roll to school event that we had just recently, getting kids out and transporting them in different methods. It was really, really, really well received. So for those that weren't aware, we were able to coordinate with our first responders. So the Springfield Police Department, Eugene Springfield Fire and Life Safety were there, but SPD provided a traffic officer, a motor officer, and a canine, and our SROs, and the kiddos just loved it. So it really made a great day, and it was a day that we had good weather. So in addition to always appreciating our SROs, I just would give you that as another fun opportunity for the community engagement.
Very good. Good. Thank you. Okay. Any other business from the audience? Not hearing or seeing anyone, I would call this meeting to a conclusion, and it is 6:41. I appreciate again everyone's time and thank you. And we will meet the first Thursday in June. Yes, Joe.
Sorry, I know everybody's going to miss it, but happy 60th this week, Barry.
Well, thank you. Someone's getting old. I don't know how that's happened. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
for your
everyone.
work you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. You all have a good evening now. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.